Hello and welcome to the 16th meetup of the Formbird FLEET Professionals Community. It's great to see you all. I'm glad to see you got your invites. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us as we put into practice Formbird's motto, turning information into communications. My name is Paul, and I'll be your guide today. That's not a pun, Adam. What's on today? We have a new feature in Formbird FLEET version 4. Adam will be stocking the shelves with a new development he's been working on with the team at Forbes. Okay, that has relevance. And the new feature is about managing the ordering and restocking of store materials, which I'm sure is going to be very important to everybody who's doing anything with Formbird FLEET. So just a reminder, as you can see, we're recording today, and all the meetups and their recordings are available on our website under the resources tab or on our YouTube channel, which you can subscribe to. You can double speed if you find this sort of stuff boring. And there are also timestamps, which allows you to jump to the good bits. Now, if you do go to YouTube, hit the like button. That's my little social media thing. Okay, now, as always, this is your community. This is not just us giving bi-monthly presentations. We actually want contributions. We want people to put their hand up, or don't just interrupt. Don't put your hand up. Just interrupt. So before we get onto the meat and potatoes, let's Mark. What did you see in Forbes last week?
I didn't see a lot in Forbes, but we saw quite a bit in parks.
Right. Well, I was actually there, and you're right, it was parks, and there was but it was all a bit of a blur.
We did drive through Forbes, which was very nice.
Through Forbes. Forbes stuck in my mind, but we saw Elvis, didn't we?
We did see Elvis. Elvis is still thriving. Now, look, we're actually up at the LG New South Wales water conference, but surprisingly enough, we had a lot of interactions with people on Fleet, because in the smaller councils up, around the country, Fleet asset management in general is often one person, and Fleet and pipes fall under their edict. So it was a very interesting conference in terms of just, I suppose, just overall asset management in local government, particularly in regional areas. It was quite an eye-opener in terms of, I suppose, a lack of, to a degree, the lack of information, a lack of access to how to manage assets in general, which I suppose, from a technology point of view, not talking out of school, but Parks had a beautiful tour, and Paul was lucky enough to go on that tour of their $60 million treatment plants, which were both water and sewer, and they were beautifully new. And, to our surprise, it was all run by 6 whiteboards. So, it's sparkling new with lots of sensors and everything else, but the 6 whiteboards still make up the critical asset details. So yeah, it's really interesting. Really nice bunch of people. Really quite a fun little conference. It was sort of, everyone went there with a positive spirit and everything else. So yeah, that was good fun.
Well, one of the conversations that Mark and Ian and I had before we got there was that something that was going to be discussed was going to be personnel and hiring and maintaining talent and so on. And sure enough, there was I knew because I read the program, but there was actually it was actually a theme that seemed to be coming out in conversations about recruitment being a massive problem, particularly for the sort of more regional councils. So yeah, I mean, I'd be sort of interested to hear if that's part of anybody else's experience as well, that, retaining staff and hiring new staff is getting more and more difficult. All right, so that sort of covers us off for the introduction. So I'm going to hand over to Adam, who is going to talk about managing and ordering, restocking. Something's wrong there. Managing the ordering and restocking of store materials.
Yeah,
it's a mouthful, but it's a good mouthful.
Yeah, definitely. I'll just share my screen here. Hold on a moment. Can everyone see my screen there? Hopefully.
Yep.
Yep. Cool. Thanks, Paul. So yeah, I'll be talking about parts management today, and this has really come out of a discussion or some ongoing engagement we've had with Forbes Shire Council, Anthony and Ed over there, around streamlining the reordering process. So that discussion is really focused on the reordering process. So that's my focus today as well. I'll go through the whole process, so from creating materials in the store, reordering them, and then also like where they end up, where you end up using them on work orders as well. So you kind of get to see it from the manager's point of view, the store manager's point of view, the administrator's point of view, to see the managing of the parts, but then also see it from the mechanic's point of view of using parts on the on work orders and capturing those costs, importantly. So from the system administrator menu, I'm going to go into our one-stop shop for parts management, which is under the works management menu here, and it's parts and materials. So on this page, we can do lots and lots of stuff. We can create new materials. We can manage all the parts, that the existing materials in the store. We can reorder parts, and we can report on the material usage as well. So to add a new material to the store, we can click this new material button. I'm not going to go through and create a whole new material right now. I'm just going to use one of our existing ones because it's a little bit easier. So I'm going to just search for this particular part number that I'm looking for and just open that one up. So you can see that we have a material type. You can link it to specific assets so that when specific assets are getting serviced, it shows up as a material that's used for that particular asset. You can also link them to particular work orders and repair types. You can give it a location. So that would be, in the store, in the workshop, or in another store. We can also have location description tags. So if you want to locate it within that place, within that location, you can give it tags to say, it's in row A and it's in bin 41, for example. We can give it a name. We can give it a category and a part number. You can see that the name and the part number are used in the naming of the material. We have a unit charge rate, so that's what it's going to be charged out at when it's used on work orders. We've got the quantity currently available in the store, and we've also got the reorder threshold, and we've also got a maximum stock level here. You can also do things like link it to a specific supplier if you always reorder from the same supplier. And of course, you can add in any notes and images, that sort of standard stuff. From the material, we can also see what material orders exist that have been created for this particular material. So it's kind of see its reorder history, if you like. And we can also see its usage as well. So there's a nice little graph of its usage. So I'll make my way back to the previous page now. We've also got this new material invoice line item button here. And this is something that I'm pretty sure Cardini is using. I'm not sure about too many others at the moment, but I will come back to this a little bit later on because it kind of ties into a few changes that we're making. So I'll loop back to this particular item. So going back to our main table or grid of all of our materials in the store, you can see there's a few controls that we can do for the table. We can change the selection function. So single selection, if I select that and then I click on an item in the table, it opens it in this child document view. So underneath the table, it kind of just saves you navigating back and forth to the material and then back to this materials list. And then the other option there is multi-selection, which allows you to select multiple rows in the table. And then do things like create material orders, which I'll come back to in a moment. If you've got any questions at any point, please feel free to chime in. We've got some filters here as well. So part of the discussion with Forbes was really streamlining everything and simplifying it down. So we did have a separate quantity available reorder threshold report, but we've now combined that into this one materials list here. So selecting that filter, means that you're only seeing the materials in this table that have a reorder threshold that is less than or equal to, quantity available that is less than or equal to the reorder threshold. We can do other things, like we can see just the inactive materials. So if a material, you've been using a material but it's superseded, or you're not ordering that anymore, then you can make it inactive on the status, and then see all those by using the filter for inactive ones. We've also got a filter here to show any materials without a unit charge rate. Obviously, that's important to be able to see from like a data management point of view or a data validation point of view, just to make sure you can quickly see, that all of your materials do have a unit charge rate if you're wanting to charge it out. We can see materials that have orders as well, and we can also see selected materials. So if I click on a couple of rows here, actually, I might just I'll just change I'll just search for materials at a specific location, for example. So if I type in FSC into the column search here, that's giving me only the materials that relate to a place called FSC. And I will also reset my filter. So I want to see, at the moment I'm seeing just the materials with existing orders, and then I've filtered it down to this particular place. But I actually want to see all of them. So I'm going to reset the filter. And that's now giving me all of them related to FSC. I might type in workshop as well. All of my materials that are located in that particular workshop. So then if I want to do something with a few of them, I can use that multi-select function up here. Click on the rows in the grid. And then we can do more stuff with that. Just holding that thought for one moment. So looping back to that discussion with Forbes, the original process that we had around reordering materials centered around having a parts management work order. It was kind of the overarching thing that manages the person who's managing the reorder, their time, the status of it. And then underneath that overarching parts management work order, we have material orders underneath. I can actually show you that if you like. So this is a parts management work order. You can see that we've got an assignee, we've got a timesheet entry, and we've got a status. So that's kind of managing at that top level. And then underneath that, we've got material orders, and that kind of represents each material that's being ordered under this parts management work order. So that was kind of the existing structure, and we've tweaked it a little bit. So that's why I've kind of gone on this little tangent here, I guess. Let's go back to my previous page. So the Forbes discussion so far has really focused around streamlining that process around parts management work orders and managing the material orders underneath, the individual materials underneath that work order. Moving forward, though, what that's kind of evolved into is actually not necessarily having to have the parts management work order. So you can kind of manage the materials just directly into a materials order. The reason why we've retained the parts management work order is it still does provide some functions if you want to, say, track my time required in managing the orders. So you can still use it for that, and managing that status and manage it in that usual work order process. But if that's kind of not beneficial to you, then you can also use just the material orders directly. So I've selected my materials from the grid that I want to do something with. And if I continue scrolling down, you can see we've got create orders for selected materials, this section here. And we can see that it's presenting those 3 materials that I've selected in the table above. And it's got a process column here showing whether I've taken action on it yet. So below this, there's this material to order thing table, and then so that's telling me what I'm going to be ordering, because obviously for each material I need to select some discrete information, like how many of that particular material, what the cost is, what I want the new charge rate to be, any other of this data below. So we have these options here to group orders by work order. So you can not group them. You can attach them to an existing one if you want to. or you can create a new one. So I'm just going to create a new one. So for this particular air filter, I'm going to order, say, 4 of these. It's populating the unit charge rate in here with whatever it is currently on the material. So you can see that's one there. It's automatically populated the unit charge rate. If you want that to change, you can change that. We can also put in the unit cost as well. So what's cost for this particular order. We can also do line item numbers, what status you want to create it with. So if you want to track the whole process, of the order. So, you want to place the order and record when you've placed the order and then be able to come back to it later and say, oh, we've actually got this delivered now. You can do that. Or if you want to just jump straight to restocked, you can also do that as well. So if you're retrospectively, you've already done the order outside of Formbird and you just want to get the data into Formbird, you can go directly to restock as well. I'll say I've ordered it now. It's not delivered yet. I'll work through the process. And we'll say it's going to be a pickup. And I'll say complete. So I've tried to say complete there, but it's giving me that error there that says a link to an assignee. So I need to select an assignee. So I'll just give it to myself. And I'll press complete. So you can see it's created a material order for that particular material. And it's moved on to the next item in the table that's presenting here. So I can say how many I'm going to order. So I'll order 1 of these, say the unit charge rate's the same, give it the cost as well. And then I can go complete, link to a work order. So you can see you can move through each of these items individually. And it's giving me that big complete dialog box. So I've now managed all of those selected materials that I had selected from the table up the top here. Any questions so far? No, all good? Cool. So this next section, there's another element here, which is create material orders for a new material. So similar kind of thing. This really just combines together creating a new material like we did up top, but then at the same time creating the material order. So I'll open that one up for you so you can see what it looks like. So you can see it's got those new material sections, but then it's also got the order details as well in there. This next table, we've got orders created in the last 7 days. So you can actually see here those 3 orders that I just created. And we've got another table down here, which is just all of them as well. So you can do things like filter them based on the date, select what you want to see, the order, what's missing in order quantity, what's missing a unit charge rate. And you can also do things like export these to a CSV. That's available on the top table as well of all the materials as well. And again, we've got that single selection or multi-selection grid function. So single selection would allow us to open up one of these material orders below the table. And multi-selection will enable us to select multiple of these. So this is where we can manage the material orders directly without actually really having to worry about that parts management work order too much. So that's now an optional element of this. So I can select these two materials, say, and say, oh, I've actually got those. So you can see it's populating those 2 materials that I've selected down here in the bulk updates order section, and I can update them with a status. So I can say that they're now delivered, and I can say that the date delivered was now. And I can say update all. And now if I go back up here, you can see that both of those are now delivered for us. Again, I can select them and say, so they've been delivered, process those packages, and they're actually restocked. If I go up now, you can see that that status has changed to restocked, and that has now updated the quantity of that material in the store. So if I go back up the top here, back to our master list, if you like, and I look for a 360, the quantity available when we started was 1. I've ordered 1 and restocked, so now the quantity available is 2 there. So now I'll jump across to the mechanics view of this, I guess, in how they're going to use that material then on the work order. So I'll go back to my home page, and I'll just shortcut to the all work orders report here, and I'll just find a nice work order for me to use. So this is what we've made a few changes to the work orders that you may or may not have seen yet if you've played around in the beta environment. But there's a few extra things, and yeah, a few different stuff. So we were playing around with kind of like separating stuff off. With version 4, it's enabled us to bring it all back onto the one work order. So if I click the materials button, it scrolls down to that materials section. So at the moment it's saying specific to this service. I don't have any materials specific to this service, so I'm just going to clear the filter. I'm going to search for that material that I was just using before, the air filter. I can select that. I can select the quantity that I'm going to use and just click use. There's like 3 button clicks almost, gets you to recording that you've used that particular material on the work order. Now we've also added some buttons here to reorder that material as well. So if I click the reorder button, it takes me to a new material order already populated with that particular material. And that's just the same process as we were looking at before. And there's also a new material order as well. So if you have so this would be for a material that's not currently in the store, you can click on that button there and create a new material and also manage the order process. So now that we've used that material on the work order, if we go back to the materials list, and if I just refresh that table, you can see that quantity available was 2 after our order and our restock, and now that it's been used, it's gone back to 1. So this also we've done some changes to notifications. I'll hand over to Paul in a second to talk about. But because this particular material, the quantity available is now less than or equal to the reorder threshold, notifications will have been sent to users who have that notification set up. But I'll hand over to Paul in a moment. So the last thing I want to talk about on this particular page is kind of the reporting side, the reporting tools that are available. So if I move down to the bottom of the page down here, you can see there's a few extra things here. So the used materials. So that's every material usage on any work order within your application. You can see that you can see the material, you can see the work order that's related to the parent request to that work order, the asset, used on that work order. That looks like potentially a duplication there. I'll have to look at that. And then we've also got material analysis as well. So this is looking at the stock currently available, both the count, the number of each, and the value of those. And you got some categorizations as well, material types and material categories there. Lastly, if you recall back at the start there, I was talking about location tags to identify where a material exists within the store. This is where you can create material location tags to track where your materials are and make it easier for your mechanics to find the material in the store when they're carrying out work. So moving back to the material invoice line item briefly. So we've identified that this item here really is duplicating essentially what is the material order is now capable of in terms of being able to discreetly enter information and record it and update the material in the store. So we'll be looking in the future to roll this particular functionality into the material order instead, now that they can be kind of created and managed discreetly by themselves, just as like a heads up, I guess. So that's why I'm not going to go into that particular functionality today, but we'll work through that process as we move forward. Any questions before I hand over to Paul?
Yeah, Adam, David here. Question on booking parts in and out. I know we'd spoke in the early days about scanning parts. You know, we buy a box of 10 oil filters, bring them into the store, use the barcode, scan, book in 10 filters, and then same with the mechanics using their tablets. Walk in, pick air filter A360, hold the tablet up, scan, add to job, walk out, fit, close job.
Yep.
Is that in the pipeline? Is that something that all other users would see as an advantage?
Yeah, something like that would be certainly possible with QR codes, and it'd just be a matter of making QR codes that link to the right particular page in the application. So that would be possible, I think. I'm not sure about barcodes as such, but would it be useful to other sites?
I saw Marie nodding there.
Marie's nodding. Okay, cool. Nice.
Yeah, I'm nodding.
Yeah.
I think it would be advantageous to have that.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's just, you know, especially when there's a quick job comes in, you know, a driver rocks up and it's, hey, I need a set of wiper blades. Mechanic, you know, quickly opens the job on the car, into the store, scans the wiper blades, gets the mileage, fits, closes, off they go.
Oh, I might just chime in here, guys. Let me actually put my video on since I've got my video off. So there's a couple of things that's kind of happening along that line. Look, barcodes are an interesting problem in a GUI environment. If you've sort of ever played with barcode readers are typically, almost always, basically a keyboard replacement. So typically they sit in line, and you can use Bluetooth or you can use keyboard replacement. So you go to and what they do is they basically inject as though they're a keyboard. So you can think of it more like quick typing. So it's when you scan it, it simply enters whatever value that's on the barcode as a keyboard entry. So when you go to Bunnings or when you go to Woolworths or what have you, their applications are very controlled environments. So they're driving you to a particular location, you click, and it's actually, so what you do is you program your barcode reader to say, read the number and then enter a value like carriage return or tab or something else. So it's actually impossible to say just scan and magically assign it to a work order or what have you. So essentially what we need to do is basically drive a user or let a user select where they want that entry to go. So like, you click on the name or what have you, and then you'd click your barcode reader, or you'd have a specific form which you put a data entry, and then you have I suppose a fixed process. And I suppose what we need to think about is what that fixed process would be. Like, you scan, because like you'd have to say, my fixed process is adding a part to store. So then you need a store entry, which would then go, and particularly if you're doing bulk. So what you'd do is would have an entry, you'd scan, it would press return or press tab or something, which would go and wait for the next one. So that's kind of what we have to kind of do, because barcode readers are notoriously bad in a web or GUI type environment because of that, because really they're very simple. QR codes are a little bit more interesting in the sense that they're greater data, but even then you still have to tell it what you're accepting in that QR code, because the QR code lets you have not quite unlimited amount of data, but quite a lot. That's where you can drive URLs or you can drive other bits of data, but it still collects that data in effect and interfaces it in. So there's a few sort of things we can be looking at. We're actually Greater Western Water, interesting enough, have a stocking kind of a project kicking off right now, which we're kind of trying to figure out how that some of those specific processes, particularly when it comes to things like stock takes, where you might have, you want to scan, you want to then say how many you got, and that becomes a repeated process. So the scan goes into a field, it presses enter or tab, goes to the next field. So user presses 30 and then presses enter and it goes to the next line. That's kind of where it's best used, particularly the barcode type concept. So yeah, I suppose the bottom line is it's got some complexities in the way we can use it, but we're keen to try and figure out how we can.
It's to me, it's more about, you know, when you're getting that bulk oil in, you can quickly scan it and add it to stock, and then the ease of the mechanical stuff, booking it out. You know, you open the work order you're working on and you scan the filter, you know, and less data entry means less error, etc. And just simple in and out stuff.
You could do that today, David. If you bought a Bluetooth barcode reader, the user would click on that field, scan it, and that would fill it out today. So that would work today, and that's how a barcode reader driver works. It actually becomes a keyboard replacement. So what it looks at and scans, it simply enters as though the user is typing.
Yeah, I just want to use the tablet, for example, open the camera, scan it straight into Formbird. So have your camera recognize it in your program.
Yeah, so what you'd have to do is we'd have to have a component which you'd press scan, which would then open the camera, and then you'd scan it, and then you'd accept it.
Yeah, or book it out, whatever. It's just any data entry type of stuff, there's potential for error. So if you can take that away using that and to speed it up for the mechanics, anything along that line is a benefit. And I think
you could use a Bluetooth barcode reader on a tablet today as well. They work on tablets. Yeah. Anyway, interesting.
The other question, Adam, was how do you manage supersession in the parts system? You know, so that, you know, supplier changes the part number. You might have, you know, 10 of the A360 and they make it a A360-1. Can you show both in your part system?
Yeah, I think so. I think it would be probably a matter of creating a new material that essentially replicates this one. I would have thought. Would you want both of those active at the same time, or would you be looking to make one of those not active anymore?
Well, I suppose, you know, in reality, sometimes, you know, manufacturers change, you know, superseder number, but you may have stock that they say used to exhaustion, and then you move to the new number. So you could possibly have it, or it simply refers back to it, or you migrate the old number to the new number. There's all different ways of doing it.
I could be wrong, but my initial thought would be just to create a new material that aligns with the new material from the manufacturer. And then once you've exhausted the supply on the original material, so you kind of like maintain that history of the naming and whatever else, to then make that material inactive once you like untick the active checkbox.
Yeah, once you've
used it all up. Yeah, and that just avoids changing the name of it as you go along, and maintains the links and everything. It makes sense to me.
Okay, thank you.
Adam, it's Raymond. Just on that, what I've actually been doing is I've done pretty much what you said, create the second part. But in the name area, what I've started doing is to get to the notes or the material description notes section, I've been putting in asterisks. And I've told the guys, you see an asterisk means there's a note attached to it.
Oh, yeah.
And in that note section, I've been putting in that this part number now supersedes to a new part number. That's what I've been doing, because the notes don't show up on the home screen where your parts are. Yeah. It's kind of a tricky one, because this notes section is large and designed to contain lots of information. It becomes very hard to display that in like the overview pages, like the tables, because it would just take up the entire table essentially with notes probably. So it's a bit of a balance, that one. And the other thing I have done is the category. I've changed it from what it was. So if it was like an air filter, once it's superseded, I changed it to superseded parts, so they can see that bit on the part on the screen where they pick their parts. That makes sense. Yeah. The other question is when you're handling bulk. So if we buy a 200-litre drum of oil, is there going to be a feature in here later on where you can set it up? Say you're buying a 200-litre drum, but you're going to use it in litre quantities. Yep, I would have thought you would, in that situation, you'd create like a new material, oil, I'll just say it is, and you would use the, sorry, it's going to move something out of the way here. You would use it as litres, and you would give the unit charge rate out as the whole price divided by the number of litres that you've ordered, probably,
I would have thought.
Yep, that's
Like
what
that's
I've
how
been
you would
doing.
enter in the application. Yeah. Is that missing something for you?
What's going to happen, I think, later on is someone's going to upload a part
Yeah.
that say is 200 litres.
Mm.
On the invoice, it'll only come out as one drum.
Yeah.
So they're going to upload it as a drum, not as 200 litres.
Mm-hmm.
So then that will upset your charge rate and your quantity.
That is true. I guess that can always be like manually adjusted.
Yeah, once you know about it, you can go back and fix it, but it's just making it easier for people who maybe not so intimately knowledgeable of the parts, that they can just look at the invoice, enter it as the invoice, and it automatically does it behind the scene.
I'm not quite sure how we would like know that if we're entering it as like an invoice. Like, how are we going to differentiate that invoice line item, if you like, from another one that's, you know, in discrete packets, for example?
So one of the programs we used years ago, it had a function where you could set up and say, I buy this as a drum, and you tell it how much is in the drum. But I'm going to use it as per a litre or kilo or whatever.
Right.
And it automatically does the adjustment.
So it'd be part of that ordering process.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd have to be part of the ordering process, really, because again, you'd have the problem where if you ordered a 4 litre container, it'll all go out of whack if you had a 4 litre, then a 200 litre, and then a whatever else. Yeah.
Are there any other items that do that as well? Like, was it always a drum? Was that the only kind of option
Pretty much
that they had there?
anything in bulk that you can split.
Okay, so it'd be like identifying the material order as something that's bulk, and then that being able to, I don't know, have some additional functionality to calculate it out, basically, to break it down into quantity and unit charge rate.
Yeah. So even if you buy a box of, so let's say 100 bolts, and it's one box on your invoice, that's what people are going to upload. But you're not going to use it as a box. You're more likely going to use it as an individual. So you need to split it to 100.
Yeah.
So either you do it the way I did it, or then you're asking the mechanic to go, hang on, I need to divide this by 100 to get the quantity that I need.
So I'm just trying to think this through as we talk here. I'm struggling a bit to see how that like differs from like you're going to have to enter that information at some point, right? Like, if you say this is a bulk item, then you break it down, like, and then that, you know, the additional information that you're collecting is what's the discrete units, I guess, so the 200 litres, and then what's the unit charge rate. Essentially, they're the two extra bits of information that you're trying to gather. Is that particularly different from entering that information like directly on the material order? So just like saying that that's the quantity ordered is then 200, or does that need to be different?
No, quantity would be ordered. Well, depends on how you set your part up. Because what I've done in the description area, if it's in a drum, so let's say a 200 litre drum or whatever, I put in brackets that it's a 200 litre drum, but dash you're dividing it by a litre. So the guys know to use it as a litre.
Yeah.
But when someone comes to add the invoice, it won't say it's 200 litres. It'll say it's one, because it's one drum. So then the person at me at this stage, but later on, if it's someone else who doesn't know the parts all that well, I divide it by 200 to get the right answer, but they could end up going, the invoice says one, I'll do it as quantity one, and your unit cost as the full price of the drum. Whereas the way it currently works, you need to divide everything by 200.
Yeah. So Raymond, would this
Whatever
be purely on the order side then?
Sorry?
Is this purely then on the order side?
No, so this would be where you're entering your invoice line item. So
When
so on the order side,
on the order side, you order it as one drum and you consume it as 1 litre. Yeah. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. It's basically the order needs to reflect what the supplier sees it. They don't see it as 200; they see it as 1 drum.
Yeah. So what I'm trying not to have happen later on is someone's entering an invoice that might say, we got this part number, it's a drum, but behind the scenes, it's actually 200 litres.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can see what you're saying. Definitely.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
Could you put that in your material description?
Well, that's what I've been doing.
Yeah.
I've just been putting it comes as a pack of whatever, or the drum of 200 litres, and then in like a bracket, use it as a leader.
Yeah.
But if someone else who doesn't really know the parts is going to start entering invoices and they miss that, they're going to enter it as per the invoice, which will then throw your quantity and your unit cost out.
Yeah.
Which you can fix later on. It's just a matter of when you find it to go back to fix it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And the other one, where you were ordering parts before and attaching them to a work order, not that I'd probably use it that way at the moment, but later down the track, if you were going to do that, once you tell it it's been delivered, could it automatically populate that work order?
Why do you want to automatically populate the work order?
Well, if you're attaching it to a work order, then if you automatically do it, then that means the mechanic doesn't have to do it. It's already there.
So are you going to want to use, sorry, are you talking about the parts management work order? Is that what you're referring
didn't you
to?
have a work order where you attach it to an actual work order?
Oh, yeah. So where I'm using the material as a mechanic. Yep, I'm with you.
Yeah, I thought there was a step here where you could say, I'm going to use this on work order, whatever it was, but you still had to go into that work order to pick it.
Yeah, I jumped around a little bit just to try and give that other side of it. This is your standard current process around using a material on a work order. So like I'll type in A360, and I select my quantity that I'm going to use and I click use. And it adds it to the work order just as you do now. Is that what you're talking about?
No, I thought when you were doing the order part, you had a work order, like as in not a parts work order, but an actual work order. So like this 1714, you could go in when you're ordering and say, I'm attaching it to this work order.
Yeah, so it's you can do that, yeah.
Yeah, but then when you went and done it, you still had to attach the part. It didn't automatically attach when it was delivered.
Yeah, I didn't use that. I didn't attach it to a separate work order.
Okay.
Yeah. Based on my understanding of your process, Raymond, you'd probably skip the work order part, the parts management work order altogether, and just do the material orders. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Once you've done an order, can you look at suppliers to see what's ordered under it, rather than looking just at part number?
I don't think we have that on the supplier at the moment. I'll just check for you really quick. Yeah, so no, not at the moment, but we could probably add something in here to show you what orders relate to this supplier.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yep.
Just had a few instances where I've had to track parts, and like you can when it's used, but up until the used part, it's a little bit harder.
Wouldn't you just go to the materials order and filter there?
Wasn't using that part because it seemed a little bit cumbersome, but might be better under this new system.
So your other, let's check down here into your orders. So your other option would be to go to the material orders back on your one-stop shop materials list. And in the supplier column here, you could type in the supplier to filter all of your material orders down to just the ones from, say, Repco Forbes, for example.
Yeah.
So you could see all of them related to Repco Forbes. That would be the way that you can do it now with the current functionality, for sure.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. Anything else? No? Cool. Hand over to Paul.
And over to the other Paul. Yes.
Yeah, the other Paul. Yep.
Oh, how exciting, Paul.
Hello.
We caught him on the hop.
Not really.
So this is kind of something that came out of the discussion we had a couple of meetings ago, I think, around notifications and emails and SMSs and all the different things. So yeah, this is Paul's done a whole lot of work around notifications and it's changing the whole structure, so there's much more control within your hands as a user about what notifications you receive and in what way. But Paul, you take it away.
Yeah, so when Adam reached the reorder notification, the reorder threshold on the material, I received both an email and a notification saying that that's happened. So that's part of the notification process now. It used to be that the notifications were all driven from the workshop. There was a link on the workshop that that you added users who would receive notifications. That's been removed in favour of a new system which is on the account, showing just dismiss that, where you subscribe to a particular email type or notification type on your account, and you'll receive that notification if the condition that drives that notification happens. So, for instance, I've subscribed to the material reorder threshold reached notification. That notification I can receive that notification in an email or the browser alert, and the browser alert you saw with the yellow notification up in the top left corner. This notification type can be switched on or off with active, and it can be valid for a particular time period too. So say I only want to know about something for 6 months or a month, you can notify within that time period. There's a bunch of new notifications or notifications that were existing but have been changed to this system. So defect monitoring, fuel card due, infringement request creation, so every type of request creation can get one, insurance on the asset, daily driver, both urgent and non-urgent, overdue requests, work orders, police permits, a bunch of stuff. So basically anything that's gotten kind of looked like it had a date that could expire, I've included it in here, but there's probably more to go, and we can just create new templates to do that. Once you subscribe to this, you can't subscribe again, so there'll be an error if I try and save this. Should be. That wasn't the error I was expecting, but anyway.
So essentially what you're saying, Paul, is that you can only create one of each type, right?
Yeah, that's right. So,
yeah.
So there'll be there's an error that says you can't create more than one. Once you subscribe to that that notification, you won't see notifications from conditions you've created yourself. So, for example, if I'm subscribed to the material reorder threshold and I actually cause the material to reach that threshold, I'm not notified. But anybody else who is subscribed to that is notified. Figuring that, you know, if you cause the condition, then you probably know about it. So, so as a demonstration for another one, this is a work order. I'm logged in as a supervisor here, so a different account, and on this side, the system admin account, my account. Just so this is assigned. This will trigger the assign and work order assigned notification. I'll save that. So I get a flag there, and I should receive an email in a minute. There's an email from Adam's alert. Emails take a little bit of time to come through. So work order assigned. So that basically. These are sticky until you dismiss them, and they should be on every window that you've got open that's subscribed, that's got the rule set that runs it. So for instance, if I dismiss it on this window, it'll dismiss everywhere. So that's notifications. I don't think there's much more to it than that.
I think it's looking really good, Paul. I'm excited about these notifications. I think they just provide so much flexibility for users to decide, how they want to get the notifications and what they want to get when. I think it's a big improvement for us.
Good day.
Any questions from the group?
Paul, I suppose the $1 million question, is this live, yes, or still in testing?
Still in development, David.
Okay, so you know the next question.
You can play with it in beta now if you want, David.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, there's been 2 upgrades to beta. So there's Fleet Beta NG, which is where you go to have a look at these new features. The new materials is not in there yet, but the notifications are. There's a few other things that we've been working on that are not in there yet either, like the new asset verification stuff, which hasn't made it there yet either.
Paul, is it worth just quickly touching on in case others want to get involved in the booking system? It might be worth just quickly doing an introduction. I know it's very early, but it might be that other people want to give a little bit of feedback on that at some point. So we're working on the pool management, booking management side of the application, and that's being worked on at the moment with Chris up in Shep. So if there's others that would like to contribute to that, or happy just to let Chris run with it for the moment, obviously we don't want a crowd, but we also, any valuable feedback or knowledge on this space is always welcome. So at the moment we're really looking at the sort of I suppose the refinement of how you book, how you specify vehicles or assets to be in that pool system. And then moving on to, I suppose, more sophisticated forms of booking, like not letting the user specifically choose the vehicle, other integrations with key lockers or GPS and all the rest of it. But at the moment, we're really trying to get the straight up booking and allocation working. So I'll let Paul just do a quick little show. It's still early-ish days, and there's refinements to go.
Yeah, so this is a calendar component where you can basically some of the features of the calendar component is varying times at various timescales. Resource filter. The resources are down the left, and the events are in the cells. So if I want to book, say, $24.96. I didn't get it. It might not be in there. So to get to be in this table, the asset needs to be set as in the hire store. So we've got this concept called hire, which has been there for a while, and these are assets that can be internally hired, basically. So the only assets that are in the assets that appear in here are those in the hire store. So we want to run it slow. So we want a Toyota. We want to book it between 1 and 2. So that'll populate some fields here. And I can do things like create repeat bookings. So I want to repeat that. every day, 5 days. So we'll go through and create a bunch of booking documents. They look like this, which is basically who booked it, when it was started and when it was completed. In the background, there's a process that will automatically commence this. So once the booking has got a status, which is, open and closed or in progress. So at the moment, this will automatically start this, set this to a status of in progress, and then automatically close it off so that it doesn't sort of hang around the calendar all the time. That's probably where the key locker interface would come in, where somebody grabbed the key and the booking would commence X amount of minutes after that, for example. When the key was returned, it would be then closed off. But at the moment, that's just like a schedule in the background that runs every couple of minutes to just check has anything been booked and whether it's in progress or not. That's about where we're at the moment on it.
From our experience, we would like a phone number of the person, to be able to put a phone number in, because sometimes you need to contact people.
Yep.
But we also like to know who the owner of that vehicle is, because you might book a vehicle, that person doesn't come in that day, but they then haven't booked their vehicle out, and then you go to take it, and at least then they can ring that person and say, hey, I've got your vehicle booked, where is it?
Mm-hmm.
Just for those kinds of situations. We have a lot of issues with carpool here. We haven't found one that works.
Well, let's make one that works. Eh?
Yeah. And there's massive, and it's all due to ownership error, basically.
Okay.
Who own the vehicles, it's all their fault.
So, sorry, Marie, when you say ownership issues, this is the shared vehicle, is it, that the staff owns it after hours, but it's pooled during the day?
Correct. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So we don't have, I don't know, a lot of other councils just have a carpool booking system where vehicles don't go home and they're just a pool of vehicles available to use during the day. We don't have that. Our vehicles are all owned for they're owned by somebody, and then they're responsible, and their people book those vehicles. And we've got a problem with people not putting keys on the board and everything like that. And then they walk 10 minutes to go to the car park to get the vehicle, and they get there, the vehicle's not there. They've got to walk 10 minutes back, and we've got a lot of issues. So yeah, we like phone numbers for that reason.
That model is not that uncommon, Marie. I think that a lot of the councils that we're dealing with, I know that's even the bigger ones that I know of have got the three classes. They've got the owner carpool during the day, they've got their pure owner that's 24/7, and then they've got the pure carpool. So that combination, and all three combinations, I've known in some of our customers where they have all three.
Yeah, there you go. God. It's messy enough as it is with one.
Yeah. So by the sounds of it, you've got a bit of experience there. Can you get a little bit involved?
Yeah, I've got a lot of experience with carpool booking. The problem is they want me to manage it, but I'm 25 minutes away from where the cars are located.
Yeah.
So I'm like, how can I manage a system that I can't see?
Well, look, I suspect that it sounds like, a lot of that stuff we could, with all the notification stuff and the emailing stuff, some of that could be all part of that sort of automation process, a booking's in there, is your car at that location type stuff, notification an hour before or whatever.
Or maybe every morning an email comes through to you, your vehicle is booked for the day. Is it still available?
Yes.
Something along those lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we could send a notification to the people that have it booked and say, this car is actually not available. You know, John says it's not available.
Yeah.
Could you please
Yeah.
find another vehicle?
Yeah. Just simple things like that can help.
Yeah. Okay, that's some really good food for thought. And so yeah, okay. So you've just put your hand up, Marie.
Love it. I get involved in too much.
Keep saying yes. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we're just a little bit over time. If there's anything else that anyone needs to say, wants to say, has to say, we could wrap it up there. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Adam. It was really great. You're really good, sort of in the firing line there, and took it on the chin. Mark came back with the QR response, and thanks to everyone else like Dave and Marie as well who contributed. So that's really important. Next meetup, number 17, will be on the 7th of September, again Thursday. So we will see you all then, and until then, just keep on trucking.
Thank you very much.
Bye.